Yo, it's your boy Logos. And to give a little bit of background on myself, I come from a military family. My father, my mother, grandfather, uncle, cousin, other people around me are in the military. I love the military. I study military history all the time in my free time, especially ancient military history. But even nowadays, I get more into the modern stuff. But at the end of the day, I support the troops, even if some of the stuff that they go to war for, I don't support. But that's not because of the troops, that's because of politicians and their corruption. So I don't have any hatred or anger towards veterans or anything like that. If anything, I have tremendous amount of respect for them. And I remember a lot of times growing up on the military base, the Air Force base, and just visiting it and being at all of the planes, the soldiers, the training, all that type of stuff. So I don't understand why they haven't drag queens or LGBTQ or any other social justice type shit being part of recruitment campaigns for the military, regardless of the branch. It just screams weakness to me. If I want to be a part of the military, what get me into it is the training, how it makes you tougher, harder, more confident, push you in good shape. It should make our enemies afraid of us, not laugh at us. And that's what I think this type of shit does. So I don't support it. But I'm curious to see what Officer Tatum got to say. I would bet $1,000 that he would agree with me. He's a law enforcement guy. I think he might have a military background. But even if he doesn't, I would bet a lot of money that he doesn't support this shit. So let's see what Officer Tatum got to say.
Hey, all you fabulous faces, it's your girl, Harvey Daniels.
I'm sad, and sad stands for successful and dangerous, smart and dedicated, sassy and dramatic, strong and determined, spicy and delicious.
What the fuck?
So that's Joshua Kelly, whose stage name is Harpy Daniels. Harpy's a sailor who says he's not a man or a woman. And the Navy picked this guy to help recruit cadets.
Not Navy SEALs?
Harpy advertises how great the Navy is by dressing in drag.
Not Jocko Willenick, not Tim Kennedy, not any of these other trained killers or these trained servicemen that we do have. Like, come on, man, this is ridiculous. Why? Why?
This video is brought to you by TatumStore.com. TatumStore.com. Get the merch link in the description section, ladies and gentlemen. We be putting out bangers. This is the hottest shirt on the store right now. Every shirt we put out like this go harder than hard. So two genders. All you got to do is put two genders into the discount section, and you'll get 25% off of this shirt. Matter of fact, I think it's 25% off the entire store. So 25% off, put in two genders, the number two genders, and go, and the link is in the description section. Like and subscribe to the channel, hit the bell so you get notifications anytime I go live, make a video. Make sure you still subscribe to this channel, like this video, comment this video, share this video. Let's get in this. It says Space Force commander fired for criticizing CRT, rips Navy's turn to drag queens for recruitment. And I think I was mentioning this earlier, that the Navy decided that the people of this country and the men of this country are somehow so wimpish that if they had a man dressed like a woman, it would encourage young men to be a part of the Navy.
Exactly.
To this point, I don't understand how the branch with one of the baddest tactical units to ever exist,
Exactly.
literally is using a tranny or a mentally deranged man to recruit for them. Do we have that video? I didn't fully watch the video because I didn't want to throw up in my mouth at the time. But there is clearly a cross-dressing person on the recruiting video, authorized, produced by the Navy. You know, like one of the callers said earlier, this appears to be something orchestrated. It doesn't appear to be organic.
Yeah.
Not unless they putting something in the water, like Alex Jones would say, because they did this with frogs. It's funny because Alex Jones gets on there and he said, "Man, they're turning the frogs gay." And everybody got mad at him. They turning the frogs gay. Look, haha, he's a lunatic. He got a tinfoil hat. No, it is a concept where certain water downstream and the frogs were exposed to it. I think it was estrogen or something like that. The male frogs were literally humping other male frogs. They were not mating with the females like they're supposed to. And I would not be shocked if the same situation is not happening to humans. Like, are they putting something in the water that's turning people gay and crazy? When I was growing up, I never heard of some of this stuff. That was, 2005. When I was in high school, they weren't teaching critical race theory.
They wasn't teaching this stuff 10 years ago when I was in high school, so it's even sooner. Honestly, in my opinion, I think it just happened within the past, 5 years, 6, 7 years or so, because they weren't even talking about this stuff in high school at all. And then all of a sudden, when college comes around a few years later, then it's like all this like two gender spectrum stuff, all this craziness, Black Lives Matter, and I don't know, just a whole bunch of brainwashing, to be honest. I was able to avoid it because I didn't go to a major university my first 2 years, but all the other people I've seen that did graduate or graduated around the same year I did, I don't know, a lot of them be on this BS.
And I was in high school in 2005 and I graduated, and there was no trans people.
There still
that wasn't
wasn't
even a thing. If it was a trans person, it was some weird person in a corner of the classroom with blue hair somewhere, confused with their identity, maybe emo or something. There was no such thing as trans people. When I was in college, I had never seen a trans person a day in my life, never heard of it. It wasn't even a thing. There was no trans celebrities. That's in 2005 to like 2009. I remember I took study of sexuality or something. It was like one of those gen eds you got to take. And they brought a trans person in, and they were talking to us about hermaphrodites and stuff like that. So it was, and the guy ended up killing himself. Actually, the guy that was on the video, featured on the video, I think he came to the classroom. He later killed himself. But I felt bad for him. I don't feel bad for these other people. I felt bad for him because he was born with both sexual organs. Damn. He was a hermaphrodite, and his parents picked wrong. They wanted him to be a boy, so they picked him as a boy, even though he didn't have any male genitalia. Oh. And so he was living a life as a boy. He was actually a girl. Like, that's a difference.
Yeah, that's a big difference. If he literally has no, like, male genitalia, like stop. Don't be selfish. Come on, man. It's a girl. Let that girl be a girl. That's fucked up. I truly feel bad for that guy, man. And to find out he ended up offing himself, damn, man, that's sad as fuck. But they don't talk about this type of shit nowadays with people who's transgender and they getting these surgeries and getting parts removed or getting injections or all this other crazy shit getting done to them now. They're not talking about all the people that regret it or the people that end up offing themselves because that's not the key to their happiness. Like, I think it's an agenda.
The man was born with a vagina thing. You know, you get what I'm saying? Yeah. He was born with more of a vagina and female internals, and his mama and them made him a girl, a man, a boy. Selfish. And so they kind of raised him like that. And when he got older, he realized he was a girl. Like, he literally could never get a woman because he had a vagina thing. I don't know if it was complete or whatever, but it was kind of like that. And then they showed like some cross-dressing trannies in there, and it was weird. But it wasn't mean because they weren't trying to thwart women's sports and do all this other stuff. It was just awareness. Like, hey, people out here are like this. So if you run into a person, this is what they feel like. This is what they do. And it was like, oh, that's cool. That's good information. Wow. I have empathy for these people. It was a mental illness. Like in the video, they were saying how they're mentally distraught. And they just trying to figure it out. Back then, it was normal to get educated on these things. Nowadays, they want you to be trans.
Yeah, that's the difference.
Nowadays, they want you to think there's more than two genders.
There's not.
Two sexes. Like, it's... Y'all got to imagine, I do this every day. Like, I'm exposed to the stupidity every day. It literally make my head want to explode. You know that there's a concept of sex and gender, and they are essentially different. And let me tell you why. Normally, the human anatomy is based on sex. It's really not based on gender. And gender is not necessarily it's not referring to humans. Gender is referred to the feminine or masculine in the English language. And this is where things get weird, because we should be only addressing the sex of a person. I would argue there's no such thing as human gender. It's sex, male or female. And that's what you are.
Yeah.
That's it. And in English, you have a masculine or feminine word. And in many cases, they were associated with the masculine and feminine person, like the energy of a male or female. So that's why when you read in the Bible and it says, it explains an inanimate object and refers to it as she, or it refers to it as he. It's not really talking about a male or a female. It's really talking about the masculine and the feminine. And in the context today, we've associated that so closely and directly with sex that it's almost absolute, to the point where people are trying to misconstrue and say, well, I'm a man, or I'm male, and I'm a man by sex, I'm a male by gender. And therefore they can then create the gender spectrum and say, well, technically, gender is not just a man, it's masculine, and this is feminine. So then there's a person who's emasculate or effeminate, and then they create these genders for that, and then they make it a spectrum. But that's not even nowhere near associated or close to the biological sex of a person. And this is where they use these words to go off the deep end. And then they say there's a bunch of genders. And then they try to make them associated with male and female. I know it's confusing because it's confusing to me, but I think that's where they have gone to. And now they want you to believe that, okay, this person is a male, but they can be a female. It's confusing because they can make gender fluid, but then they're trying to make sex fluid to be fluid with gender, if that makes sense. It's like it's so confusing to try to explain this, but hopefully people understand it too. And so you can't just wishy-washy and intersect all of these things without being a complete nut job.
Honestly, in my opinion, I think it is pretty complicated too, in terms of how they're trying to make this whole argument out to be. And for the most part, I don't involve myself in it. I'm not going to say there's 70-something genders. I'm not going to address you as a they or anything like that. You're a he or she. If you don't like that, I'll use your name for the transaction or whatever I have to interact with you for. And then after that, we just don't have to interact. I'm not finna be guessing your gender day by day or your name day by day. I don't have time for that shit. And I really don't care to. And if you're going to be offended by that, then it's probably best we don't be friends, because that's probably going to be the least offensive thing that I'm going to say around you. Because I like to have fun. I like to joke around. And for the most part, no joke or no thing is left forbidden for me. If I think it's going to be funny or I think it needs to be said, I'm going to say it. And that's just the way it is. Once again, I don't understand why military is using social justice causes to drive recruitment. That's not what we need in this country. If anything, we need to go even more hardcore, I used to be, about fitness, getting stronger, getting better, and taking accountability, and using that in commercials and showing what you can be after going through this training, and having like soldiers or having Navy SEALs or other special forces people in the other branches, talking about their journey and how they wasn't always as badass. Like Jocko Willenick, he'll be the perfect example because he's the type of person that you can see him and hear him talk, and you know, like, that's the type of man I would follow behind in a war. And you have your trust and confidence in him. Excuse me. But having him do a commercial or just a talk about how he wasn't always this strong, badass, confident guy, and he worked himself up to be that, that would inspire a lot of young men and a lot of young women to go into the Army and Reserve or any other armed forces. And I think that's what we need. Because I remember a few years ago, Tim Kennedy was saying he can't even find guys, or it's hard to find guys that is like eligible for like military or especially special forces type training because they're either out of weight or out of shape, and they have problems with like drinking, drugs, etc., etc. So that's an issue we have in military overall, I think. Who knows if it changed in the past couple of years, but doing it like this isn't gonna help. I was always inspired growing up by seeing the Army Strong commercials and the guys rappelling down helicopters, training, getting tough, getting down in the mud and shit. That's the type of shit I like, not this stuff. But maybe it's just me, but I doubt it. It's your boy Logos. Like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Peace.